Good morning. Call the Wednesday morning Criminal Justice Committee meeting to order, August 12th, 2020. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess?
Present.
Mr. Byrne?
Present.
Mr. Lear?
Present.
Mr. Snipes?
Present.
Ms. Dunbar? Ms. Parker?
Present.
Mr. Fairfield?
Present.
Mr. Carrico? Mr. Eckhoff?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Present.
Ms. DiColo?
Here, present.
Mr. Swanson?
Present.
Mr. Long?
Present.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Present.
Mr. Hunter?
Here.
Mr. Wheeler?
Here.
Mr. Searoy? We have a quorum.
I have not received anything for public comment. Is there any public comment at this time? You're not recognized, Bob. Okay, we take approval for the minutes of July 15th, 2020 by Mr. Long, second by Mr. Fairfield. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I gotta do the Zoomers. Zoomers first, roll call.
Mr. Byrne?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Ms. DiColo?
Aye.
Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Moving on, Chief Judge. I don't believe he's here. Do we have anything from the Chief Judge this morning? Nothing. Circuit Clerk's Office, Ms. Cianci.
Good morning.
Good morning. In your package, you have a copy of the Circuit Clerk's monthly report. Take a motion to approve.
Parker.
Parker with and Mr. Lear is a second. Comments on your report, Sandy?
No, nothing too unusual. The corrections with Harris and Harris is a little slow this month, but I don't have the copy of the state's attorney collection in front of me either. I think that one was a little low too. So I think that's catching up from, you know, the time that we were away, the COVID people, you know, I guess it just has caught up to us. So we've still been really busy though, and people are still coming in, paying, you know, a couple $1,000s and wiping out a lot of tickets. So that's been a good thing. So, I mean, it's not terrible. So other than that, that's about it for that.
Any questions or comments for Sandy on the report?
How's your,
Mr. Hunter, hang it.
how's your implementation of your computer system coming along?
She probably couldn't hear because the mic.
How's the implementation of your computer system coming along?
That'll be next. I didn't know if we were done with this.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Zoomers for a vote for the monthly report.
Mr. Byrne? Mr. Byrne?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Ms. DiColo?
Aye.
Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
And those here, all in favor say aye. Motion carries. Up next, computerization update.
Sure. So we're still working on the civil integration. The testing is still going. There's still errors that are popping up. So when we create new cases in a testing mode, things are connecting, but then like there might not be a new case number added to it or something like that. So we're still working through those issues. It's sometimes not collecting all of the party information, and these are very important things that we have to make sure that are, you know, all tested in 100% before we move forward. So and it's nobody's fault. It's either, you know, there's just glitches on each side of the two different vendors. So we just want to make sure that it's all complete. So that's about it for that. We upgraded all of our computers for the Windows update, and we're just plugging along.
Questions, Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, just wanted to know, when did you start the implementation?
Well, it's been over a year, maybe 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions or comments for Sandy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, State's Attorney, Mr. Rowe. We have no reports for this month.
Good morning. Yeah, that's because we just had two grand juries. I'll have reports from those next month, so we finally started up the grand jury process again. And I'll also include a report of the number of felonies that were filed outside of the grand jury for next month as well, just to kind of give everyone some numbers that you can kind of compare to last year's. So, but no grand jury reports this month, but there will be one next month.
Okay. Anything else for us, Jim? Any questions for Mr. Rowe?
All right, thank you.
Oh, hang on. You didn't get off fast enough, Mr. Snipes.
Good morning, Mr. Rowe.
Good morning.
How was that, I call it the youth program that you're going to have, starting up between, I guess, you, the Y, and the school district, and whatever other entities are involved, with the mentoring program, giving the COVID-19 pandemic, how is that going to kind of be implemented this year in the school district?
Yeah, you know, it was devastating because we had finally graduated our first class of mentors. Everyone had been trained. We were about to match them with mentees, and then COVID really put a halt to that. So we've been keeping the mentors engaged with Zoom meetings and just trying to keep everyone on track until we can, get back to some sense of normalcy and start having them meet their mentees. The thought is that once kids are settled into the school year, so maybe we're looking end of September, we'll start, if we can't get back into the schools where the mentor can meet with the mentee, we're going to try a virtual option because we do want that program to keep moving forward. In the meantime, we're still recruiting mentors, so if people are interested, please sign up, send me an email. We're trying to build a queue of mentors because certainly we have enough juveniles in the system that are in need of mentors. So, but the hope is we start it up maybe end of September, early October, and ideally in person, maybe virtual mentoring.
Okay, and then how are you going to, how do you identify, or I don't want to say target, but how do you identify those at risk or medium risk that you're going to probably target, that you believe that if you intervene, their lives can be possibly changed by this?
So because this is intervention focused, we're looking at every kid that comes into the criminal justice system. So for instance, the grant is actually targeted toward juveniles in the juvenile justice system. If a kid comes into the system, they should be immediately attached to a mentor. We were expanding it once we can get more mentors ready to go, so that when a child is referred to our office for possibly charges, even if he goes through a diversion program, an informal supervision disposition, something less than juvenile charges, we can still attach them with a mentor. Because the only reason they didn't come into the system at that point is because we had an appropriate diversion for them.
Good.
So,
are you working with Teen Court on that as well? Are you working in collaboration with Teen Court?
Teen Court's no longer operating.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they lost their finances thanks to Springfield. So, yeah, we wish Teen Court was a great diversion. It was a great option for kids who, maybe did something that really doesn't justify having a court case, but you wanted to make sure there was a learning opportunity there. You could divert them to Teen Court. But that's no longer an option. So I met actually just last week with Tom Latham with Grace Segabrush about some other options for youth that are coming into the system and how we can, better intervene to keep them from coming back.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith had a question.
Mr. Rowe, I saw something, I don't even remember where, about a week ago, some oversight committee that you've started up over there?
It's conviction integrity.
And tell me what that means.
So conviction integrity's got a couple roles. The first role is if someone brings a viable claim of innocence forward. So someone's been convicted, maybe they're incarcerated, maybe they're not, maybe they even pled guilty. But they come forward at some point and say, you know, I was innocent, and this is my alibi, or this is how it can be proven. When those claims come forward, we want to make sure they go into the hands of someone who is specifically able to review the claim and determine whether they believe that the claim of innocence is truthful. So there'll be, once it's up and running, this unit, there'll be a volunteer panel, maybe 3, 5, 7 members. Of those members, you know, a couple of them would meet to review a claim of innocence. If they believe that it's viable, in other words, it's something that could be proven, then they're going to assign it to the attorney as well as an investigator. Those individuals go out, they'll come back with a report to that panel, who will then make recommendations to the attorney on whether they think that the claim of innocence was truthful. So reviewing prior convictions is one component of that job. I think maybe the unique component is preventing wrongful convictions in the future. So putting together trainings, best practices, reviewing policies, and working not only with other prosecutors, but providing trainings to the private bar, to public defenders, probation, police officers, everyone involved in the criminal justice system, the judiciary as well, to make sure that we're all implementing best practices and safeguards in place to prevent a wrongful conviction.
And who are these members?
Well, right now, Dan Johnson is leading that unit. And what he has been tasked with is finding, you know, across the nation, what are some of the best models? So what are other CIUs doing that's working? What have they done that hasn't worked? How do you get a panel of members together that is truly representative of the community, that is not biased, pro-law enforcement, anti-law enforcement? You just want people that will call the balls and strikes down the middle, who have no prior attachment to the cases or to perhaps the police officers or, you know, defendants, witnesses. So that's part of the process in building this unit, is determining what makes a good review panel member, and what those qualifications should be, what the training might be. So we're still in the process of that.
And funding?
Funding, there are a bunch of grants out there, but initially all it is the cost of the attorney, and the panel members would be all volunteer.
Thank you.
And we do have some discretionary funds, like from, you know, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the MAD classes. We have some from gang violence stuff. We've got some money from collections that can be put toward, you know, paper, little supply costs, training costs, stuff like that.
Okay, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you. That was one of the. If people are interested, go look at Cook County CIU. That was what I did for the research when Jim and I were first talking about this way back when. As far as how that is operated, that's just one model, and really this tends to manifest when you have somebody who might be wrongfully convicted for, say, 18, 20 years in the system. The minimal marginal cost of this versus that. It's an insurance policy on trying to make sure you don't have any of those situations, both costly in terms of human life, but also taxpayers' resources, because it gets very expensive. So that, without commenting further on that. Now, I did have a question for Jim regarding Mr. Lillard and his involvement into mainly, to start with, Kankakee School District. You know, that was another announcement that might have flown below the radar that people should probably know a little bit about. Jim, do you want to explain a little bit there?
Sure. So the school district, it's been great to work with Superintendent Walters, with their board. They've funded a position to put a community outreach specialist in the office who's going to work primarily with students in District 111, since they're paying for it, but they realize that, you know, crime anywhere in the county impacts their kids as well, so he can work countywide. And the idea is getting him involved with youth, young adults, when they first come into the system, to help them stay out. And working, to Mr. Snipes' question earlier, working with kids who are identified by the schools as maybe heading in that route. You know, they haven't entered the system yet, but they're definitely headed that way. Getting him to go out and intervene. Some of that's going to be an initiative where we help kids get into college, you know, go and do a tour of KCC, apply, fill out FAFSA forms, all that kind of stuff, kind of pushing them in that direction. We're working on a partnership as well with Olivet. We're going to work on Governor State after that. Just someone to sort of push them in the right direction. It's taken from a model that they have in Peoria. Myself, Mr. Jones, we went down and we met with what was the then mayor, the state's attorney, and the police chief at the time. And their program is called Don't Shoot Peoria. We are not doing a Don't Shoot program. We don't have the resources to do that, but this position is one of the positions that exist in the Peoria model, and they've seen a lot of success with it. It really helps keep the kids on task. It lets them know that there is someone in the community that cares enough to take the time and invest in them, and shows them some opportunities maybe they didn't know existed. Sometimes kids think they just, you know, maybe their family is doesn't have the resources to help them go to college. They don't think their grades are good enough. They don't realize that there's always an opportunity out there. So Hamim is going to be working on that for us.
And so, you know, Mr. Chairman, when we talked, Jim and I talked about this also, if you use the model, or at least the financial commitment it takes for the U.S. Marshals to send people here under that rubric, that $90, if we can keep one kid out of our jail for a year, it pays for our end of things. You go up to 10 and you start to take a look, I mean, medical cost, everything that comes after that.
Yeah.
So again, there's a financial aspect of these things beyond the human side of it that I tend to take a hard look at from the board side. So that's what I want to let this committee know, is why that exists. It's the right thing to do to try to get them early. We don't have teen court anymore. So how can we keep them from staying months on end for something they did when they're 18, especially with slowdowns and things going on because of COVID? It just makes sense.
Yep.
So.
Mr. Hunter.
Some time ago, probably 30 years ago, and I'm dating myself when I say that, the issue of the Citizen Advisory Board or Citizens Review Board was brought forth by myself, City of Kankakee, and it kind of fell on deaf ears. Now, with the cooperation of the state's attorney, the local chapter of the NAACP, Sheriff's Department, etc., that particular concept is going to be coming forward. Jim, could you amplify on that particular proposal?
Well, it's the same thing we talked about in that law enforcement meeting.
Yeah.
The joint meeting between NAACP and all the police departments. You know, there's a model out there for a civilian review board that every police department could implement if they want to. We said we'd be happy to help them craft that resolution or ordinance, adopting whatever model they think best fits their community. But it gives that second set of eyes, and that's exactly what we've done with this conviction integrity unit. You know,
Okay.
we've given a second set of eyes to the state's attorney's office. Every case we handle has the potential for going through that unit. If someone brings a complaint, it'll go through that unit, or I mean a claim of innocence, it would go through that unit. It would operate much the same way.
Okay, thank you very much. A follow-up, with respect to the eyebrows being raised regarding the demise of teen court, might that be incorporated in the next fiscal year budget?
There is a grant out there right now where we're trying to seek some money. That was the R3 funding, the marijuana money, for lack of a better term. We're hopeful that that comes through so we can get a teen court model back into our county.
If indeed that doesn't come through, would corporate sponsors be pursued, you think?
Yeah, that could be an option. That could definitely work. I mean, I think anything right now to get teen court back up and running would be a blessing.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Wheeler.
Mr. Hess, was that about $30,000 that teen court cost us? Does that number sticks in my head? Does that sound right?
I was thinking 40, but
Jim, do you know? Was that roughly?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think that that number, maybe it's close. 40 is probably close.
Okay.
It also depends though on how often you have teen court. Yeah, I mean, there's some other expenses in there, but we've been working again with District 111. I can't say enough how great they've been to work with. We've been working with their superintendent and her staff on trying to find out how we can partner with 111 to do that. I've spoken with the sheriff about it, so we're getting close. But I can see if we can get some numbers together for you, have them at next meeting.
That's good. Mr. Snipes.
Yeah, Jim, I wasn't planning on you have to talk long, but since you don't talk that often, I don't feel too bad. To kind of thwart to a different subject, the Supreme Court ruling, the United States Supreme Court ruling that occurred in February of last year, that kind of dealt with the seizures and excessive fines and things of that nature. Has that had any impact on your office?
No. Well, I mean, what has impacted our office, I think every office, the entire community, is what Springfield has done in eliminating all the court fines, which was the funding source for things like the Children's Advocacy Center, where they interview kids that were victims of rape, sexual assault, removing the funding source for teen court, which is a good diversion program for kids. That's where we've really felt the impact. It's narrowed our ability to really, address the issues that are bringing kids into the system and to work with the CAC to investigate those sex cases. So on that front, it's been devastating. But from a seizure standpoint, no.
Oh, okay.
Because we weren't taking grandma's car to begin with. That was really the complaint out there. You've got a drug dealer who is driving around the neighborhood in grandma's car selling dope. He gets pinched and then they take grandma's car. Well, we weren't doing that. If something like that was filed, the judges that hear those cases in our county wouldn't have gone for that either. So that's just not something that was a practice to begin with.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Rowe? Keep us posted, Jim, on that grant.
I will. Thank you much.
All right, thank you. Up next, we have Public Defender, Mr. Pennewick. In your package, you have a copy of the monthly report. Take a motion to approve by Mr. Long, second by Mr. Smith. Comments on your report, Ed?
Basically, I've reviewed it. The numbers are going down. I'm assuming that's because we're finally back in court again, having what amounts to a regular court call every day. Traffic's the only exception. That's something that I need to continue to look at and try to figure out some type of solution for that. But beyond that, the numbers speak for themselves. They are going down to some degree. Obviously, numbers can be manipulated or fudged. So, there's only so much that information tells us, but it's obviously better to see the numbers going down than going up. Prolonged cases, they say help the client, my clients, and they probably do. But at the end of the day, everybody, including the client, has an interest getting their case resolved, and that's been an issue that in my office for some time now. But that's all I have regarding the report itself.
Okay. Question that I had to me this morning: are the plea agreements, are they in with the closed cases?
Yes.
They are included in with the closed cases then?
Plea agreements, or if private counsel enters, any reason why we are no longer on the case. The client dies, whatever the reason, it's considered. It's either plea agreement or dismissed or discharged.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Pennewick? Mr. Hunter?
Ed, question. Do you have an internship program?
We started that with, primarily with ONU, and I also talked to Ms. Condon at KCC, and then COVID hit. So we were just getting it going.
But you're going to revisit that, though, right?
Of course.
At some point.
I mean, as you know, Steve, they're motivated to make it happen, and so are we. So it's a perfect combination.
So that's a commitment, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion on the floor with roll call with a Zoom.
Mr. Byrd?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Ms. DiColo? Ms. DeColo? Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any other things, Mr. Penelwick?
Very briefly, when Ms. Steves left my office about a year ago, you guys provided some additional funding to create a full-time position. The person I hired, ironically, is now working with Mr. Rowe. I am working on a replacement for him. Going through the numbers over the last couple of months, I was giving him more and more cases, and he was resolving more and more cases. So my ongoing goal about a full-time assistant was bearing fruit. It was much more efficient and proficient than a part-time position. I am looking to hire a woman who is currently in law school. She has actually started in a part-time capacity. She's licensed under Supreme Court Rule 711 to practice law, pending the bar results. Because of COVID, the bar results were supposed to start in July, or the bar exam was supposed to start in July. It's been pushed to, I think, October, and I do not know when the results are going to be, so my office is going to be a little bit shorthanded till she passes the bar, but she will be taking his position in the near future. And she's from the community. She grew up in Kankakee, so, you know, it should be a good fit for the office and for the county.
Good. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Penelwick? Thank you. Up next, probation. Mr. Latham, in your package you have a monthly report from probation. Take a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Mr. Kirkstra, second by Mr. Eckhoff. Comments on your report, Tom?
Good morning, everyone. I have nothing to add unless anyone has some questions.
Any questions for Mr. Latham on the report? We have a motion and a second. Zoom people?
Mr. Byrne?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Ms. DeColo? Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Anything else for us, Tom?
Just a couple things. As a result of the pandemic, our collection of drug tests are way down. Normally we collect between 250 and 300 tests a month. And you can see on the report, it's 10 last month. So as a result, we've contracted with Dwayne Dean to do a lot of our drug testing at their site and our site. And I'm also speaking with another lab to possibly help us with that. They just are better equipped. They have better facilities for it. They don't have to be in the same room. They can view it through a window type of setup. It's a little safer. And if we do take some sort of step back at some point because of COVID, we can still keep drug testing going, which is very important for our high risk, our specialty courts. And that was a big fall off when this hit back in March. So we're working on that, and hopefully we can keep it going with whatever happens. So, and the second thing, also as a result of the pandemic, our juvenile detention numbers are way down this year. And I just bring this up to point out how much we're saving as a result of ending that agreement back in 2018 with River Valley when they bought us out of our ownership. If we were still in that old agreement with the amount of beds we're using and our average detention days right now, we'd be spending about $600 a day to detain every juvenile, when the going rate's about $115 to $130. So, and a lot of that's because, we discussed before, a lot of those costs with detention are fixed cost. So when our detention numbers go way down, the daily rate per minor detained goes up. So, and the other second part of that is that because we're not exceeding our 12-bed limit in our current agreement, our balance, our funding should go farther into fiscal year 22 than we were planning on. So, just to point that out.
Yes, Mr. Hunter.
Yeah, just a comment, Tom. When I heard you indicate that you have a relationship with Dwayne Dean and Rincon, I know, being on the Hippocrates board, we've had a real viable relationship with Dwayne Dean and Rincon as well too, and I like to see relationships with MBEs, WBEs, and I applaud your efforts for working out that relationship.
Yes, they've been wonderful. Dwayne Dean, anything we've needed, they've helped us. We've worked through the problems. That we brought in weekend drug testing, probably about a year ago now, working with Dwayne Dean. That was put on hold, but that's back. So they've been a huge help.
Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom, are you ready to at least let the committee know about that new paradigm on juvenile detention that I'd sent you over, or is that something you need more time on?
Well, I could speak to it a little bit. I have been reaching out to people. We have a meeting Wednesday of next week with Administrative Office of Illinois Courts and others to get into the weeds on it. As Governor announced 2 weeks ago that they're looking to transform the Department of Juvenile Justice, basically juvenile DOC facilities, close those facilities, and transform into like regional residential placement centers for juveniles. It's like a 3-phase plan for the next 3 or 4 years, but there's a lot of questions right around with it. Obviously I can't believe they would close all facilities, but the press release sounded like they were. And we're gonna actually use the larger facilities to house adult in DOC overflow. But honestly, there are juveniles that are in custody for very serious crimes. And we have to have a place to house those. And regional residential centers are also concerned to me because in Illinois, no residential facilities are locked. They're not locked facilities. So that, juveniles can literally walk out. So I'm hoping next month in September, when I report, I'll have a lot of information on that. Because I have a lot of questions, and the press release is rather general.
And so, Mr. Chairman, that was I apologize, I'm sorry. When one of the assumptions I had when negotiating with Will County on that facility was that juvenile detention was really, it's the exception now, because it has to be something really heinous, really dangerous, or as Tom and Jim Rowe know, they cut the ankle bracelet off all the time, so they've got to go stay somewhere. It's people don't want to put kids in detention. I didn't expect it to evolve this quickly to where places like our former River Valley Detention Center won't even be in existence, potentially. So, that forces us to at least think about what's next. And this won't be like what's next tomorrow. It could be, 22, 23, 24, when we're going to have to, we may have a balance still up at River Valley, but there's nobody going there. See my point? So we have to really think about this a little bit on what that means for us and the finances, and how do we exact that amount of revenue out and move it over to wherever they're going to be sent in the future. So it's kind of a big deal. When we used to spend upwards of $600,000 a year on juvenile detention, and just when we had the building, it'll be a fraction of that now, but we were using a balance of what I negotiated, so we didn't have to pay anything. Well, what happens with that? You see my point? So right. I want to draw that attention to the committee because, there needs to be someone that remembers this beyond November.
Mr. Snipes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is a uprising of teen activity I see, or youth, may I say, in the community. And to my knowledge, from some police officers, these young people are they're renting the U-Haul van for $19.95 or getting someone to rent them for them, and they're going through the neighborhood shooting. I'm hoping at some point that there's going to be some tactical engagement in order to deter this type of behavior, which might mean that there will be some teens being finally charged with these unwarranted activities that they're doing, the useless shooting. So have your office heard anything, or are you preparing yourself maybe for that influx of teens that may appear in the system?
Yes, we're ready, and we've spoken to the local U-Haul facilities that rent these trucks out to anybody over 18. I know the city police department has done the same. You know, I think what we're seeing is when we took a step back because of COVID and we had very little contact with people outside of phone and contacts and things like that, we're starting to pay the price for that, I think. And I think that's why this month, and you start seeing it every month grow, our field, we're getting people out of the office and in the field more and more every month. We can see people a little safer in the field and not bring them in this building. So, you know, we see that. We got to have, you know, eyes on them. We got to be watching people. We got to be checking on them, and we got to be in the community. I think the plan for, we weren't ready for the pandemic. I wasn't ready for it. We went to the phones and trying to stay in contact with people, but that works for about a month or so, or 2 months, and then you know, you're just going to start, people feel they're not on probation anymore. And so that's why we met all last week here, making a plan to get everyone back out in the field and out in the community, I should say, out in the community, making contact with people, and just starting to get control of the situation a little bit more. And so, but yes, we have this U-Haul issue has been around for a little bit, and we're addressing it the best we can.
Okay.
Anything else for Mr. Latham? Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Up next is the sheriff. In your package, you have a copy of his monthly report, and I believe everybody received it by email. Take a motion to approve. Mr. Lear, second by Mr. Long. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Morning. Don't really have a whole lot. The monthly report, which you should have all gotten, thanks to Kelly. The numbers kind of speak for themselves. Our revenue's down. We've talked about that. Our locals continue to go up. For those of you that don't know how we're operating out at Jerome Combs, police have not stopped arresting people. So we run the threat of COVID every single day. Our jail staff has done outstanding work in preventing the jail from any COVID cases, in spite of what you may read on the tinfoil hat social media pages. There is no COVID at the jail. As I said, our locals are up. You know, people are still being arrested, and they have to have a place to go. We quarantine for 14 days. We're fortunate that we have the ability to do that. So new arrests are not mixed with those in general population until that quarantine is over. We are, when we have video court, the quarantined inmates are not brought in with the inmates who are already there. So that's a little bit problematic for court, because there's a little bit of a lag from the time we bring back the individuals who from general population, and then bring the inmates who are quarantined for that 14 days are brought in. But everybody's been very cooperative with it, so it's not been a big issue. Obviously, the goal is to prevent it from getting in our facility, and so far so good, and it's better to be lucky than good. So, questions on the top part? On our sworn,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Do we have an update on the cost of our people that we're housing for the state of Illinois?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we do. I just sent them yesterday the bill for July. So the original bill from March 26th through June 30th was $167,744. The housing for July was $115,920. So the total due at this point is $284,220 from the state of Illinois, which as I emailed it to the state of Illinois, I got the pat response that I got last time. I am unable to communicate with you directly due to the lawsuit filed in circuit court titled Illinois Sheriff's Association versus Pritzker. So they got our bill, they just won't talk to us. Unless they need information from us, then they'll talk to us, but that's a whole nother story. So yeah, to answer your question, yes.
Okay. Any other questions on the Corrections Division?
On the sworn side, if you look, the calls for service over the last couple of months have doubled. That's a little bit problematic, but things seem to be going okay. Our civil process service is down significantly, obviously due to COVID, and by the governor's order, there is no evictions or anything else, so we're not evicting anybody, so that's obviously things that we're not doing as well. So,
Questions or comments for the sheriff on his report? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Oh, Mr. Long. Oh, okay. Motion and a second. Zoom people.
Mr. Byrne? Mr. Byrne?
Aye. Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Ms. DeColo?
Aye.
Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Animal control update?
yeah,
Or anything else on the sheriff's side first?
no, not really. It's all pretty self-explanatory.
Oh, hang on, Mr. Snipes had a question.
Just one, Sheriff, that's kind of gleaned away from some of the things you talked about. There's some concerns in the Pembroke, more specifically the Hopkins Park area, what I kind of call Operation Let's Clean Up Pembroke or Hopkins Park. Is there any way under Homeland Security or any grant that we can, for that particular area, secure dollars to have an officer or two just in that area to kind of offset a lot of the crime? It looks like individuals, because they think that there is no public safety or police protection out there, takes the liberties to do crime, and knowing that if they do, by the time there is a response, they can be long gone, or et cetera, et cetera. Is there anything that we can do or anything that's available for them to kind of secure something out in that area, maybe through the sheriff's office, for accountability purposes?
Well, first of all, any grant that would be available for that area, Pembroke Township, Hopkins Park, would have to come through another entity, because the grants have been so misspent, so misused over the course of time that they are, apparently there's some list out there, I don't know what it is, I've never seen it, but the word is that Hopkins Park is not eligible for any sort of funding. And that's unfortunate, because it's much needed, as you know, as your comments indicate. We have, however, submitted a grant for, I believe it's $100,000 for additional policing. That grant was submitted by us, the sheriff's office, to do that. So that money would have to come through us to do. So yeah, that is in the works. We've not heard anything on it, but we're trying to get some policing out there as well. We're out there every day. But it's a big area, and so sometimes things are going on. One of the biggest complaints we get, much like in the city, some of the complaints we get are four-wheelers going all over. Those doesn't sound that serious, but there was a serious accident there last year, I believe, where I think an individual lost his life, and but the problem with four-wheelers, much like in the city, once you try to stop them, they go off road, and then police cars are, we can't get them. So, but yeah, we have submitted a grant to answer your question.
Oh, okay.
So,
thanks.
Mr. Hunter?
Just, Mr. Chairman, I might ask the sheriff, Sheriff, could you revisit your meeting with the Hispanic Partnership? You and the chairman and yours truly attended, and there was substantial attendance of Connect.
Sure. There are people out there who think that every person who's in our country illegally should be here and be allowed here. And because we house ICE, they don't feel that way, and they asked a lot of questions. And if there's one thing that, you know, I will always do, I will always be open about what we do, how we house inmates and detainees. And certain people don't like it. They don't like the fact that people are locked up, whether they're illegal immigrants or whether they're criminal arrests from our local community. But I can tell you that we have never denied anybody an opportunity to come into our jail. Those individuals, the majority of those individuals involved with the group you mentioned has been in our jail as well. So I mean, I'm more than willing to talk to any group that wants to talk about it. They may not agree with, you know, what I'm doing or what the jail does, but there are standards, there are rules, there are things that we do, that we go by. And so I mean, I don't know what else to add. It was I think it was an informative meeting. I invited the group that were there that haven't been in the jail. If they wanted to come, they can come and see for themselves. And, you know, so.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to let people know, the county for Hopkins Park is acting as the fiscal agent on the natural gas pipeline, so we can access grants. And Mayor Hodge has been a great partner in that. Pembroke Township has shown no interest in discussing that. I'm not saying they don't want to, but they haven't been part of any of those discussions. They are also on the list, if you will, that can't get grants as well. Because of the mismanagement and frankly fraud that had happened out there. Doesn't speak to the current administration, but things that have gone on in the past.
Right.
They cannot be got
exactly
certified. Right. You know, there's too much out there, and they know that it was a place where money just disappeared. And so anything going forward, we're absolutely all in for helping Hopkins Park, and the sheriff is too. I mean, with the COPS grant with school resource officers, you know, there's different things that could really help, you know, the area, and we want to make sure that we're definitely involved in that, in helping us in any way we can. Right. So,
thank you. Anything else, Mr. Long?
Sheriff, last month you talked about some of your transportation needs, that the buses that I built 10 years ago, oh gee, closer to 12 years ago,
yeah, longer than that,
are a little worn out. Have we made any progress on, you know, making some inquiries and things?
We are in the process of getting some prices, and that is based on what we think we're going to need. With the slowdown, and on the report you'll see the number of transports that we have. Those numbers are down significantly, so we think those are going to go back up. We're fairly certain they're going to go back up. So we're in the process of working with some local vendors to see if we can get some prices, look at all the options, whether they're new, used, whatever. We did, I believe it was last year, we do have a bus that is available to us. It is actually on our property. We actually bought it for $1 from the Metro. I paid for it, don't worry, I got it. Yes, it does. Yeah, that has an engine. Yeah, no, it's a viable bus. It just has to be retrofitted to be a little bit more secure, but it is on site, so it's just something that we're holding on to right now. So we're not gonna go forward with a huge purchase just yet.
My feeling is if somebody's getting rid of a bus,
I heard that.
There must be a problem with it.
No, they're actually not. No, it was, so we have a
I
great.
didn't mean Metro, I meant
Yeah.
the other ones that are out there that are used. If
Right.
they're getting rid of them.
Well, but there's some that get leased and then get
Yeah.
returned. So there are some options with those. So
Okay, animal control.
yeah, so animal control slowed a little bit during the lockdown, which actually was a good thing. We felt like with people at home, they were much more able to care for their animals. So it did slow a little bit. It has picked back up now, and you know, it's operating, you know, very well. Carrie's doing a great job. We did start with some contract language with some municipalities that we've talked about for a while. And then as everybody's fallback excuse, COVID hit. So I think we're gonna have the COVID excuse for a long, long time, but we are starting to get those back out and put those together for the municipalities. I know there's some that are very interested in getting this moving, so we'll be working on that too.
Questions for the sheriff on animal control?
Mr. Chairman. Here. Carrico here.
Yep, Mr. Carrico.
Sheriff, I just have a question regarding to the possible agreement with the municipality, with the villages when it comes to all animal control or having this intergovernmental agreement with them, because I just had a call a couple of days ago from expressing some concerns that she had called animal control, and animal control did the right thing and instructing her to contact the village of Bradley, and then back and forth. Try to contact
Antonio?
this time. Yes.
You're cutting out.
You're
Can
cutting
you
in and
get
out.
closer to the mic or something?
I don't know.
I am actually in the front of the computer. Can you hear me a little bit better?
Yep. Yeah, it might be the internet connection. You were cutting in and out. Your voice was out totally.
Okay, let me see. Can you hear me a little bit better?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. What it is my question was in regard to intergovernmental agreement with villages between the animal control. 2 days ago, I had a call from one of the residents of my district expressing some concerns because she called me animal control, and animal control did the right thing, telling her that she had to call the Brethren first. But she's still kind of confused, and she ended up calling me, got my number from the county's website of wild animal that she can area. So how's that everything coming along with this kind of a conversation with the villages to work with them?
Yeah, the villages want to get this done. They want a contract with animal control. As it works now, if there's an animal issue in a village or municipality, the municipality handles it first. They handle the initial call, and then they make the determination themselves whether or not they call animal control, because that will ultimately result in animal control charging that local municipality or village. What the contract would do would allow for animal control to respond, because the villages and the municipalities are paying would pay a flat rate. So there would be no issue with let's take, for instance, the city of Kankakee. If the city of Kankakee were to call and say, hey, we have this animal, can you come and get it? We would come and get it. The villages and municipalities right now use some discretion as to what they want to do with that animal right now. So they may hang on to that animal for a while, see if they can find the owner. In the future, they would more than likely just turn it right over to animal control. Animal control would then deal with and try to find the owner. I don't know if that answers your question, but
It does. But my question would be, give me or give us an update what is going on between Village of Bradley and animal control in terms of the contract. Any update on that?
The contract or the negotiation with the.
Yeah, is the Village of Bradley accepting that? Or?
They are, absolutely they are. They Bourbonnais and a couple others have actually called us during the whole lockdown, and so they are chomping at the bit to get moving on this. Again, you know, we went back 20 years to see what municipalities were paying animal control, and then we have added a little bit of cost on what their average is, just because we think once we contract with them, our call volume will probably go up. And so we have a number for each municipality. We're just putting the contracts together. I know that I believe that we are working with one of Mr. Rowe's assistants to help us make sure that language is good. But yeah, Bradley's very interested.
Okay, good. Because I know that animal control you guys did an excellent job when it comes to putting this together and the numbers and the cost. And I'm hoping that the Village of Bradley come on board with that.
Yes, they are very interested.
Contact animal control directly. All right, thank you very much, Chair.
Yep, thank you.
Anything else on animal control?
No.
No. Any questions for the sheriff? Anything else?
Yeah, I got a couple things just real quick. You know, we talked about the Illinois Department of Corrections and how that process is going. You may or may not be aware that the sheriff's actually won this lawsuit against the governor, basically saying that he can't be, because it's required by statute that these sentenced inmates go to the Illinois Department of Corrections, they can't not take them. However, they can make it difficult. And of course, we figured that would happen, and that's what's going on right now. The day that we brought, so it was a week ago Monday that the decision came out, and Cook County actually brought a bus down to the Illinois Department of Corrections on that same day. We went the next day, along with a lot of other counties. The disappointing part was there were really no accommodations made by the Illinois Department of Corrections for any sort of expedited process. We understand that basically what they were doing is they were rapid testing every inmate that came into their door. And they told us as we were waiting in line, anybody who tests positive, we are shutting it down and everybody's going home. So we kind of knew right there that they were looking for an excuse. So we got to the Illinois Department of Corrections at 8:40 on Tuesday, 8:40 a.m. Our officers got home at 9 o'clock that night. We had 3 transport vehicles. We had 32 inmates, and they sat out in the drive into Stateville that whole time. No bathroom, no food, no medication. It was an embarrassment. It was a flat-out embarrassment. And we literally had to send another person up with food, with our own food. We had to borrow a gallon milk jug from another county so our guys on our bus could go to the bathroom. It was atrocious. And I'm sure that was by design. I'm sure they're all upset because, God forbid, somebody questioned our governor. But it was ridiculous. So now we have 6 more who are ready to go. We have notified Illinois Department of Corrections, and so now we're on hold, and now we wait for them to tell us we can bring them. So this is going to be a game that the state of Illinois will play for God knows how long. But it was a shame. When you talk about local jails trying to do the right thing and treating people the right way, and then you go there and sit in line for, what, 10 hours? No bathroom, no food, no medication. We had 3 diabetics. We had to bring insulin from our facility up to Stateville so that we could get our people insulin. It was pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. So we'll be dealing with this game for God knows how long. As I read you the email, they won't talk to us. So It is what it is. You should just be aware of it. When you hear those complaints, and when those complaints end up on the Tinfoil Hat social media page, that did happen. That's how it happened. And I'm sorry it happened, because that, I will tell you that next time we will be better prepared. If they're gonna treat us like that, we will be prepared for it. Normally, our agencies all work together pretty well, but for whatever reason, it didn't happen this time. So we will be prepared, though. And then lastly, just to show this committee, we just got this in the mail. I don't know why, because this happened actually in June. But this is our certificate of accreditation from the National Commission on Correctional Healthcare, that we continue to be accredited through that agency. That is basically a best practice for medical care of inmates. And it's something that our medical department is very proud of. It's something I'm very proud of. And for those out there that are saying that, you know, they don't get, inmates don't get medical treatment and blah, 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 they get better treatment in our custody than anybody in this room. So.
Mr. Hunter.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pose a question to the sheriff. Sheriff, rhetorical question. Will you be providing a copy of that document to vested interest groups? At my request.
It'll be hanging in our jail.
At my request.
It's, I'd be more than happy to give him a copy. That's all I got.
That's anything else for the sheriff?
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Yep.
Stay safe.
Up next is a coroner.
Wear a mask.
All right, nobody there? Okay. In your package, you have a copy of the coroner's monthly report and the monthly receipts of money. I'll take a motion to combine and approve those by Mr. Eckhoff, second by Mr. Fairfield. Zoom people?
Mr. Byrne?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Ms. Acolo?
Aye.
Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is there any old business to come before the committee? Any old business? Any new business to come before the committee? Mr. Wheeler.
It's just to let the committee know that one of the sheriff's good friends called me last night about 6 p.m. I got a call on my cell phone from the governor, and he was calling to check on the services from IEMA on the state side and to ask a lot of questions about our area and damage, what we were seeing, if there was anything they could do to help, and I
take the prisoners.
I did not want to interrupt the detente that we had on that phone call, but we did have a conversation about that, and I was going to talk to the sheriff about that offline. But at least let the committee know that you know, we all have political differences, but I think there was genuine concern about what was going on in this area and the power outages, and I asked him to see if he could do what he could on his side of things to help get the power restored. Because we can disagree on things, but we should agree on other things. And I just brought up the case of my next door neighbor whose special needs that we help take care of so he can stay in his house. His medic alert is off. He has no power. He has no phones. So when I took my son to a hotel out of the area, because as I told the governor, I have a CPAP, and if you don't have electricity, you don't sleep. And he said the same thing for him. I'm sure he might know where he has a hotel he could go to, but the one side of it is though that there is a sympathy there of what's going on, and he's concerned about the citizens, and it's genuine, but we just do have other disagreements. So as far as IEMA goes, I think we got our hands around everything here. We don't, you know, there's a lot of residents who are hurting with damage. I know a couple in this room probably who may have had some things that have gone really sideways on them, but I would say communicate with, if you have some serious things with emergency management, get a hold of Becky Powell out at the Sheriff's Department. So just as kind of an update, there was a ex parte communication I thought I'd pass along. So,
Sheriff?
Yeah, we were out yesterday doing damage assessment and identifying those that had serious damage for just that reason. So I'm glad the governor called and is going to take care of the people that had some damage. So.
Mr. Snipes.
Yes, and do know that there are still a lot of people without power, and we are doing everything within our.
You say we?
In our power to, try to help individuals. I had recommended that they go and get a generator, but it looked like all generators are gone all the way throughout this county. Further south, they said go about south, generators are gone, and it's almost like the epidemic of the toilet paper and these hand sanitizers. You're not going to find a generator, and I believe that when the power comes back on, you're not going to find a generator because people are going to just go in and flood and get the generators. We are again trying to work with other things or whatever, like little solar lights and some other things or whatever to kind of help individuals, little battery backpacks. I had some of them saved up. They're all gone. But hopefully the county will get this restored. I see the city is out working and getting some things. But my comment, sometimes we have individuals in our midst, and sometimes they make the job look real easy because you just see them, and sometimes they go under the radar, and sometimes we don't say thank you enough. And I want to say a special thank you to Kelly, no matter whom or when I call, and I'm sure other county board members and chairmen and other individuals call, this individual makes the job look easy. She gets on things right away, and a lot of times we have her in our presence, but we never say thank you. So I just want to publicly say thank you to Kelly for all that she does, where it doesn't go unnoticed, even though I know that many times she could be up on the radar getting things out to everybody and the whole 9 yards. It may look like it's easy because she makes it look easy, but I think it's a special thank you for her, to her passion of doing the job and just her professionalism. So thank you.
Sheriff.
Yes, I would also agree, Kelly, you do a great job. Also, we have not had power, we have been on generator power at the jail since the storm. Still on generator power as of today. We have been told could possibly be this afternoon, we could be back on regular power, but we have been on generator at the jail and the sheriff's complex as well.
My notification was the 15th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So, any other new business come before the committee? Mr. Kirkstra.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Mr. Fairfield. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign.
In honor of your name, sir.
Motion adjourned.